Hi everybody, this is Todd Olthoff from toddolthoff.com coming back at you with another screencast. And this week we're going to talk about security on your server. And so what we're going to talk about this week is the firewall that comes with Mountain Lion Server. Now, in previous builds, for those of you that have used Lion Server, you know that the firewall had a graphical interface that was used through the server admin application. But as you know, with Mountain Lion Server, we don't have that application anymore. Server admin has gone away. And so as you'll notice, there's no area in here anywhere that has anything to do with the firewall. So what I want to do is show you how to set up the firewall, understand a few of the things that are enabled in it so that you can get that up and running. Now, a couple of things to understand about the firewall, and that is from Lion Server on, we moved to a packet filtering firewall. Now what that means basically is that in the past we had an internet protocol firewall which didn't necessarily go into all of the packets like a packet filtering one does. It's just a different style of internet filter. So if you see IPFW out there somewhere, that's the deprecated one. PF is the new firewall that's being used in Lion and Mountain Lion Server, and so those are the two main differences there. One of the other differences between the two to keep in mind, again this is probably for advanced users a little bit more, and that is in the IPFW firewall, the first rule wins over the other ones. In other words, whatever the first rule is, it overrides all of the other rules. In PF, the PF filter though, the packet filtering one, firewall, the last rule is the one that wins. So I just want to keep those things in mind if you go into some of the advanced configuration so that you can get your firewall working the way that you want it to. Now, as I said before, the firewall service is not available in server application. In order to get it going, it actually works right within the Mountain Lion client. And so what I'm going to do is click this down here, and you'll see here in System Preferences, you want to pull up your System Preferences and go into Security and Privacy right here. So if you just click on that, and you can see right here on the tabs we've got Firewall. And so you can see right now it shows I've got my firewall off, and that no incoming connections are being tampered with or kept from coming in. Now, something to understand about firewalls before I show you how to enable this is that if you have a router, your router functions as a hardware firewall, which means that it is blocking connections into your network and your computers all the time. And that's why in previous screencasts where we've talked about port forwarding, we open ports on that hardware router to allow certain connections to come in and go out from the from the internet and out to the internet. We open up those ports to make those things happen so that certain services can work on the internet. And so that's why we have a hardware firewall. Now, for most of you, depending on what you're doing, that may be enough. But for some of you, you want that extra layer of protection, or if you've got a server that is front-facing, which basically means that you don't have a router between your server and the internet, you're definitely going to want to use a software firewall like this to handle all of your incoming and outgoing connections. And I'm going to show you what that looks like as we get this set up. So let me just turn on the firewall. In order to do that, you can see I can't do anything without clicking the lock here. And so with that, it will ask me to authenticate using my administrative username and password. And so now I've opened that up, and now I have the ability now to make changes. And so simply all I've got to do is turn on the firewall, and now as you can see the firewall is on. And everything's running, and it's going to keep different programs and things out. Now I've got a couple of different things I can look at here. I've got firewall options and I've got advanced. If I just click on the firewall options here for a minute, this is the actual configuration area for the firewall that you've got. Now again, those of you that have used the more advanced settings will recognize right away that there isn't a lot of customization here. Some of these settings are pretty simple, and I'm going to cover these. I'll show you later how you can do some of the customizations. You can do a lot of those with Terminal. Unfortunately, that's the main interface that Apple has resorted to. But in a future screencast, I'll show you some GUI types of ways that you can interface with the PF firewall. So if you come in here, you can see that we've got various things that we can look at. You'll notice, let's just start right here first. You'll notice that in here, any services that you have opened through System Preferences will show up here as automatically allowing incoming connections. All right, so your file sharing, your printer sharing, remote management, screen sharing, those are all things that I've enabled in my sharings area of System Preferences, and so all of those things are allowed. In fact, let me cancel this for a second, and let me just show you over here in the sharing area where I have these different things enabled. Whatever I have enabled here will automatically be enabled over in the firewall. Now you'll notice here, you can see I have file sharing, printer sharing, remote management. Okay, let's go back to the firewall. Okay, I've got to log in again. And go to firewall options, and you can see file sharing, printer sharing, remote management, and screen sharing are all showing right here. So basically it just allows those services that you allow in the sharing area. Down below, you'll notice that I've got a few different applications that have needed access, from things coming in from the internet that I have allowed and said it's okay to allow these services to get through that firewall. You can see if I just click the little filter here, I can either allow or block. So if I've got certain ones that I want to make sure I block, I don't want to allow them, I could actually come in here and click the plus button, and I could go to my applications and pick ones that I want to allow or block from having access through my firewall. Okay, let me just cancel that. So anyway, so it's an easy way to be able to set those things up. Now down below, these two things here are kind of important. The first one is automatically allow signed software to receive incoming connections. In other words, any of your software that's been signed through the Mac App Store, you're saying with this, hey, go ahead and allow those things to automatically be added to my list up here of software that's coming through. So it's kind of an easy way to say, hey, those things have already been vetted. It's okay to allow those things into my network. And then down here, you've got an enable stealth mode, which basically means that your computer won't respond to outside devices it doesn't recognize trying to ping it. And a lot of times what happens is people will send a ping to a server, wait for the response to see if it's a live machine, and then they will then try to attack it. And so it's usually something that's done ahead of time to see if the server is something that should be attacked or not. And so it's a good way just to sort of enable that stealth mode so that it doesn't respond. And then finally at the top, you've got block all incoming connections, and so that'll block all connections except those required for internet services like your DHCP, Bonjour, those kinds of things. And this is if you're having a problem and you think someone's attacking your server, attacking your computer, you can check this box here and it will basically just shut everybody out so that they can't have access on your server anymore. So those are just some of the basic things that you can do with it. This is the extent really of the graphical interface. Let me just click cancel here. And that pretty much covers it. This advanced area down here, if you click this, it doesn't have to deal with the firewall itself. It's just your security and privacy settings, so there's nothing there to worry about. So that's it. That's really all there is to running the firewall, just at least getting the firewall set up on Mountain Lion server. What I'm going to do is in a future screencast, I'll show you a couple of ways to work with the server, both through terminal and then also through a graphical interface as well. Well, that's all I have for this week on getting the firewall up and running in Mountain Lion server. I'll be back at you next week with another screencast to help you learn how to do more things with your Mac.